Hello, everyone, and welcome. Going to let everyone come into the Zoom room. I can see people joining. Thank you very much for attending. We're still calling this AST20, but we're calling this AST20 maybe 2.0. Just looking at the numbers. Hope everyone is well. We've got a jam-packed evening coming. Over the next 90 minutes or so. We've got Charles Watts talking about his latest book, his first book, The Revolution, more about Mikel Arteta. We've got Adrian Clark, who's just got home from a day of recording somewhere, I think. He's just having his dinner, so he'll be joining us a little bit later, and we're sure to ask him about Thomas Partey, right back, Gabriel, Kai Havertz, the whole lot. And we'll have an in-depth discussion about them. But before we start, I'm just going to play a video, which is a quick highlights from AST20. This video has not been seen by the public yet, but it will be going out on our social channels over the next couple of days. But we wanted you guys to be the first to see it. So welcome to AST20 2.0, the virtual version. And this is kind of what happened a couple of weeks ago.
The AST is important to me because it's a chance to have influence. It's a chance to make your voice heard and to represent all of the wonderful Arsenal fans who are members.
One of the things that's most important to me
is keeping close.
Me because it's a chance to have influence. It's a chance to make your voice heard and to represent all of the wonderful Arsenal fans who are members.
One of the things that's most important to me is keeping a close relationship with the club. And being able to be a part of these kinds of events, and I know that the AFC has evolved and it's grown and it's changed with the differing ownership of our club, but to be able to come to events like this when I'm over keeps me connected to this club, and that's the thing that's most important to me.
It's all about fans having a voice, that voice being heard, there being an environment where you can discuss your views with other like-minded people, but also contrasting with other people that you don't hang out with all the time, and I love that mix of the AST.
Supporters groups like the Arsenal Supporters Trust, and congratulations on your 20th birthday, are so important for the game, because without you and other supporters groups, the game wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in a job. The pyramid would be dead, because it was 2 years ago, just outside there, that you and your fans were protesting before the Everton game about the European Super League, which would have killed English football, which would destroy the pyramid, which would actually have unpicked a lot of the fabric of society. So it's vital. You're the early warning system, the first line of defence for some of the charlatans who want to come in and ruin our game.
I love the fact that you get to speak to everybody. You can speak to the chief executive, the head of communications, down to people who work for the club, the photographers, the people that do the day-to-day work behind the scenes, which to me is really important from an accountability perspective. It's really good to hear from ex-professionals, current professionals, obviously experts in the game. I remember a meeting where we had ex-physiotherapists here, which was just fascinating to hear how it works behind the scenes. And I think we as fans need to hear that sometimes. It's all very well watching the players on the pitch, but to hear what goes on behind the scenes and how that works is fantastic.
I really like the way that the Arsenal Supporters Trust in particular has been able to be versatile in terms of responding to things that matter to fans. So that might be kick-off times, that might be broadcast times, that might be safe standing. Anything that comes up for fans, I don't see how else a club like Arsenal or any other football club in the Premier League really understands the depth of feeling around something like that without the fans.
We are a big family, a big network of different people, not just across the country, but across the world. In the past few years, we've gained more access to fans across the globe, and obviously having virtual meetings has allowed more people to get involved, and that's actually spread our expertise of what problems different people have, not just what we encompass who live locally to the club.
It's one thing to watch the club on television. It's one thing to occasionally come over for games, but I understand more about corporate governance. I understand more about the finances of the club. I feel more of a part of the way that this club evolves, and over the past 5 years, it's never been a more important time to be able to have those kinds of connections.
It's important that fans join supporters groups because you're stronger together, inevitably in a collective, and not simply as Arsenal fans joining together, but also joining forces with other fans. And I think we've seen with this, well, you saw with the protests, that everyone realised why we needed a regulator to support the fans, give you constitutional powers if the European Super League does come around again. And although the fans did brilliantly to see them off the first time, the regulator is still needed. So absolutely, the power of the fans, the power of the sort of constitutional weight behind a regulator is so important.
There's lots of things that the AST bring to the table which aren't really necessarily things you read about every single day in the newspaper or whatever, or on social media. So it's there to take from it what you will, and everyone is truly lovely.
Hopefully for those of you weren't there, that gave you a little bit of a flavour of what happened that evening. The full recording has been sent to all members, so you should be able to watch the whole evening. I think it was a couple of hours of footage there, and we made sure we invested and we spent a little bit of money on good equipment and the right sort of people recording the event because we knew it was important and we knew not everybody could be in the room. So obviously thank you for everyone that was involved in that particular event. Thank you for everyone who helped organise it. Thank you to the likes of Bakary Sandia and Nigel Winterburn, who are two ex-players. Thank you to Roman Kemp for hosting, for Vinay Venkatesham, Arsenal CEO, for saying a few words, along with Henry Winter, Darren Farley, the impressionist, and Jacob Hawley, the comedian as well. So it was a great night, and as I said, there are individual clips as well available on our YouTube channel. And that video you just watched, if it was a bit jittery because of sort of Wi-Fi connections and stuff, it is available on our YouTube channel as well. I want to introduce Nigel and Glyn to the stage, so to speak, just to talk briefly about sort of the AST. Obviously, it is our 20th year anniversary. Glyn and Nigel are two of the founding members. As you can see, I'm way too young to be a founding member, and I made that joke a couple of weeks ago, but it's still the same. I'm a lot younger than these two chaps, but obviously these two chaps have played a massive role in getting the AST kind of off and running. So Glyn, if I come to you first, and I know, you know, there was actually a little clip in that video of you talking to a gentleman on the first row who was in a wheelchair, and I know you want to spend a few minutes talking about him. So if you kind of want to take the floor a little bit on that.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Akil. Yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. Yeah, it was, as I said, it was 20 years ago when we first started the AST, originally formed to give shareholders a voice, basically. And I remember starting it really following an email from a chap called Steve Powell. And Steve Powell, very, very big Arsenal fan, very larger than life character, lovely, lovely man. And he was at our AST 20 event the other day in a wheelchair. Unfortunately, we learnt the sad news this weekend that he's passed away, which is very sad. And I just want to pay tribute to Steve because Steve was our first member. He was member number 1 in the AST in our member list. And it was really his ideas at the beginning that brought us together. His ideas were used for the basis of Fanshare, which we did many years later. And Steve was one who recruited me. I don't know if he recruited you, Nigel, but he recruited me originally, and we took it from there. So he was tremendously influential in our starting, and lovely, lovely man, big Arsenal fan, very influential in supporters groups. Yeah, it's a real shame, and you know, rest in peace, Steve, really. So,
so Glyn, back to it. Why 20 years ago? Obviously, you got an email from Steve, but what was it? What was needed? Why was the Supporters Trust needed?
We needed really. I mean, it was a government initiative to form Supporters Trust, I think, and the idea was that we would get together to try and give fans a voice. I mean, initially we concentrated on shareholder representation. That was like a way in, but gradually over the years we've gone out wider now to obviously all fans. And at one point, you know, we started the Fanshare organisation thing, as you know, where we managed to acquire Arsenal shares and have them available for public to buy. Very, very successful. We had £2 million worth plus of Arsenal shares at one point, with the third largest shareholder in Arsenal at one point. And we got a lot of support in that with the CEOs at the time. And then obviously they were compulsorily purchased later down the line. But we started off as a shareholder representation group, and then obviously morphed into a fan representation group. But really, we concentrate on corporate governance and knowledge on the accounts, which Nigel does, and that sort of thing.
Nigel, obviously been there as well since the early days. How was it for you then, and how has it changed over the years?
Well, it was an exciting opportunity, because at that stage, Arsenal had quite a disparate shareholding, and that the small shareholders, of which I was one, Glyn was one, and others also had 1s and 2 shares. If we brought all those small shareholders together, we thought we would then have a legitimate voice at the boardroom. We never actually got that stage, because we couldn't get all the shares together, etc., etc. But many initiatives came from there, and by having, let's say, we had 1% of the share ownership as members of the AST, it did mean you could knock on the doors there, and they would listen to us. So it was the start of that movement, and then it got a lot bigger. We obviously had access to the reporting accounts, so started doing financial reporting in the early 2000s. So I mean, it's moved on a lot since then, and there's far more professional bloggers who spend time doing this type of stuff. But when we started doing it in 2003, 2004, no one was writing that type of stuff. And you look back at someone and say, oh, how basic it was. But, we were talking about, where the revenue streams came from, all that type of stuff. And then, of course, all the other initiatives have grown, as Tim Stillman said on the video there. I should say you managed to edit Glyn and I out of the video there. So it's nice that you've got us on now, by the way. But
yeah, well, I think well done.
There's lots more content from the night still to come. I mean, Nigel, just on that, there's been lots of highs and lows. Any particular ones you remember?
I mean, one personal high, and I mean, it's interesting how things changes. There was one unaccounted for share, which we dubbed the orphan share, and it was basically a rounding error. Someone, when ITV were going to buy their 10% of Arsenal, they created one too many shares. So we had a campaign to say, well, it needs a good home, and eventually it came to Danny Fisman sort of said, yeah, why doesn't the AST hold this on trust for the wider group? And it ended up with a presentation with the massive share certificate on the pitch before a game. And Danny died in April 2011, and that probably wasn't much before then. So that was a particular high. I mean, I don't want to talk about too many lows, but there haven't been too many. But it's it's always a roller coaster type of stuff. But it's the volunteers and the members, so tremendous volunteers. And as I said on the evening, we are a member organisation. Without members telling us what's important to them, then we have no voice. So that's the legitimacy that we seek.
And there is a recording of that piece from the night where I think you listed all the board members that have been part of the journey, and just would like to thank them again for their time. Everyone's invested a lot of voluntary hours in this, so thank you to them again. And Glyn, I guess a message to kind of members and overseas members and all members really, about how important they are to us.
Yeah, obviously. Just before I do that, I just want to say one of my favourite moments was one of the feisty AGMs when we managed to start a campaign to get everyone in the room to vote against the directors being re-elected. That was a lot of fun at the time. I remember that. But anyway, that aside,
we still have the cards. We have the cards somewhere.
That was great fun. That was anyway. No, seriously. Look, I mean, we are, as you say, a member organisation. It's one member, one vote. We represent our fans and our fans' voice. Oh, there you are. Look at that. Our fans' voice, and all our members are very important, and particularly overseas members. We've got quite a lot of overseas members now in many areas, many jurisdictions. It's fascinating to have those members and hear what they think from afar. And we're really pleased that since COVID, it's made us do virtual meetings. So hopefully we can reach out more to the overseas members. But look, I want to thank everybody for joining. The support is brilliant, and it helps us do what we do. We've got a lot of things to do, the AST. I mean, there's lots of things that we need to keep an eye on, the regulator being one, continue to give fans a voice. Who knows what's coming around the corner. My final piece is I firmly believe that, football belongs to the fans. I think any Arsenal shareholder is a custodian. He or KSE don't own it for themselves. They own it for future generations of Arsenal fans. And one day I hope to see Arsenal fans as shareholders in our great club again.
I mean, I may have been a bit flippant there on a highlight being the symbolic single share. The real highlight should have been the 6 or 8 weeks around the Super League. So from April 2021 to May, when people wanted to protest. Henry's just said it on the video there. The AST was a natural body where people wanted to show some sort of support. So, the members flocking to the AST, the members which we've retained from there, people have worked hard to retain them. And there's always admin behind this. So the work that Glyn and Carmen Taylor did to process those 2,000 applications or whatever in a short period of time was monumental.
Well, and Phil as well. But yeah, it was interesting time. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys. I'm sure
Very much,
there'll be more to cover maybe later. But I think we should move on. So I want to welcome Charles Watts. I was going to say from goal, but it's not from goal, Charles, is it anymore? I guess it's. I mean, what? How am I meant to? I should have asked you this before, but how do you want to be introduced?
I don't know really. I haven't thought about it, to be honest. I'm still certainly fit myself as a journalist. I'm working, obviously doing a lot of stuff by myself now. I've launched my own website, branching out more into the world of YouTube and podcasting, trying to create my own mini Arsenal media empire, I suppose, and author, of course. So
let's start just on you and your role. Obviously, people will may know you, may not know you. We've got, I think the beautiful thing about the AST is we meet members who are, some of them are on social media every day, some of them are never on social media and rely on sort of these sort of events and member emails and stuff like that to keep up to date and read newspapers and things like that. So it's beautiful. But for people that haven't heard from you, what have you done today? I know Football London, goal, but what have you done today? And what did you decide to do in the summer? Because I know you made a big step.
Yeah. Well, I've been an Arsenal correspondent since 2017 now, like you said, first with Football London, then I moved over to Goal in 2020, I think it was, 2019. And I've been doing that for a while, been loving it. Sort of just being in and around the club every day, every weekend for all that time. But like the last 6 months of last season, my job was beginning to change a little bit at Goal. The sort of route they wanted me to go down in terms of the content they wanted producing, I wasn't really enjoying that much. I was kind of putting up with it because it was Arsenal, and Arsenal's an Arsenal fan as well as an Arsenal reporter. And then, I found out in the summer, at the end of the season, they basically said the job was going to change. And instead of just being the Arsenal correspondent, I was going to be the London club writer, and they wanted me to cover Tottenham and Chelsea. And I just didn't have I wouldn't have had the motivation to do it or the passion to do it. No, exactly. Well, when I first stepped up in front of my journalism class, like in, 2001, I think it was now, when I did my first journalism course, what do you want to do? What's the big outcome here? And it's like, well, I want to get paid to cover Arsenal. That was always the dream. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years and absolutely loving it. And then to sort of move away from that and writing about clubs that I have no passion for and frankly dislike. I thought, no, I don't really want to do that. And I'd always, in the back of my mind, I've been wanting to kind of go out by myself for a while and not really had the guts to do it, really. I've got 2 young kids to support and all that. But I thought this was, when that conversation happened, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And I had the book coming out as well, which I'd already completed at that point, and that kind of gave me the flexibility to be able to give this a go now. And it's going really well, really enjoying it. It's kind of opening up my eyes to the world of technology more and getting into all that. And but it's going well and enjoying it, and the feedback's been good as well.
obviously we'll talk about the book in a second. But obviously, with sort of social media and online being a lot of my industry, it's something I'm personally quite intrigued about. But how has sort of media and reporting changed over that time you've been doing? Even from, as you said, 2001, you started your journalism course throughout all that, and then the Football London goal. But how has it changed? Because it's very much gone towards online. There still is a print market there, but it has changed over the years, hasn't it?
Oh, it's changed unbelievably. It's just immeasurable, really, where it changed. I mean, go back to, I think my first job was 2002 as a junior news reporter at my local paper, the Slough and Windsor Express, and the internet. We had one terminal with the internet on an entire office, and that was in the editor's room that you had to go and sit in his chair and to look up on anything online. To think back to that now just seems absolutely remarkable. And the whole industry is based around the internet now. Everything's internet first, and so it's just changed so much. And I sort of, when I first got into sport, I was working for the Reading Chronicle. Then I went up to the Reading Evening Post, which was the sort of main daily paper there. Sort of working to deadlines. And then when I was there, that changed to go online only, and they scrapped the whole paper. And it was a huge change. Really dramatic. That pretty much all the staff went, and it was just a really sad, awful time, really, for the industry. And but it's just the way it's going. It has been going for a long, long time. So it's when I just look back in the sort of 20 years I've been doing this, it's remarkable how the industry's changed. And what it will look like in another 10 years, who knows? But you got to constantly try and change, constantly try and keep on top of it all. And that's what I'm trying to do, really, with this move as well.
And what was it about sort of the whole online space? You talked a little bit about doing more on YouTube and doing more kind of building your own Arsenal empire, as you said. What does that mean in practice?
Well, I think it's just the different areas that people want to consume their content now. It's just so different. It's podcasting, it's YouTube, it's still reading, and that's why I've launched my website, because I still want the ability to be able to write stuff and for people to read it. And I know there is a desire for that as well. But people now, they get their news in so many different ways, and they get their content in so many different ways, whether it be on the when I used to go up to London on the train, I was just reading everything, but now people are listening to everything. So you put your podcasts out, you do your interviews, you deliver your news in that sort of format. And I'll do a daily show on my YouTube and podcast where I'm talking about the main bits of news that are doing around, or news that I have. And then, say, this evening, just before I've come here, I've delivered a more long form version of content with myself and James Benge from CBS, another prominent Arsenal reporter, where we're now doing a weekly show together that goes out on YouTube and podcast formats as well, where we sort of delve a lot deeper into the events around Arsenal during that week. And so that's what I'm trying to do, sort of branch out to cover all areas, so that everybody has the ability to sort of listen to, watch, or read what I'm producing. And I think that's really important, just to to make sure you can deliver to your audience.
And how does that work from a practical sense? Obviously, you are very much in the press box, and obviously for years I had the season ticket right in front of the press box. I've sort of moved a few blocks down now, but you see kind of most match days, we still obviously have a chat and stuff like that. Have sort of Arsenal been supportive, or do you now not kind of sit there because you're not a part of the mainstream media, or how's it all work from a practical sense?
Well, they have been supportive, to be fair, and I can still go in if I want to. I haven't yet, and another big reason for the change was last season. I think last season was so great. We all enjoyed it so much, and I really missed being in the stands, and I've still kept my season ticket the whole time I've been in the press box. And my dad goes, and usually I used to go with him. I've been season ticket holder since 1991, but since I've been doing this job, my nephew would go, or my niece would go, or my brother would go, and we'd sort of rotate the other seat. And I really wanted to go back to sitting in the stands this season as well. Last year, it just really whet the appetite last year. And my dad's not getting any younger, and I've got a son now who's 7 and is at the age where I started going to Arsenal. And if I'm sitting in the press box, I can never go to football with my son. And that was all really playing on my mind as well as part of this decision. And so, although I still can go into the press box or press conferences if I want to, I haven't taken Arsenal up on that. And like this Sunday, I'll be in my seat for the Man United game, and I can't wait for it. And so, I've got to kind of balance the two together, because I still want to be.
There's a slight difference between wanting to sit in your seat for games, but still maybe go to the pre-match press conference and stuff like that. Can you still decide that, can you still potentially go to the pre-matches and not the...
Yeah, because Arsenal being good and they've been off. I mean, technically, you're supposed to have data accreditation, which I'm in the process of sorting because I am still doing stuff on a freelance basis for like Team Talk and Football 365 and stuff. There is a route in there for it if I want to do that, and Arsenal have been very good and said that if I do want to, just to reach out and they can facilitate it even while this process is going on.
Great stuff. Just to break there is some news, I think, from Monaco, I think, where the ceremony is taking place, and Bukayo Saka has just won the PFA Young Player of the Year. So,
I just saw that. Great news. Really lovely picture of him with the
trophy. Yeah.
Trophy,
Hopefully that won't be the only trophy he's holding up this season. I mean, just quickly, there we go. Great, isn't he? What are your sort of views on Bukayo's season? I mean, he was fantastic, wasn't it, last year?
Oh, he's just a magical footballer, such a brilliant young man as well. And to see his growth over the last few years has just been amazing. I remember I was over in Frankfurt for the game where he scored his first goal. It was under Unai, and Arsenal went over there on 3-0, and Bukayo, I think he set up 2 goals and scored the other. And went down to the mix zone after the game, and Arsenal comms were like, we had all of us press pack there, and this was the 17-year-old kid, and they were a bit worried. They're like, okay, can you just go? We'll bring him out, but go easy on him. He's never done anything like this before. And you get that sometimes on occasions, and these kids come out and you can see they're visibly shaking. They're so nervous and they can't talk. And he came out and it was just like, he was so natural at it. And you just thought straight away from that moment, it's like, this kid is special. There's something about him that's just different. And yeah, to see the path he's gone on since then and the season he enjoyed last year, and the way basically as a kid, he picked the club up on his shoulders at times, him and a couple others, and dragged it through from when it was on his knees. He's just such a special player, and the way he bounced back from the England disappointment as well, to do what he did last season, just a wonderful player.
I was it was about 16 I met him. It was a charity thing after. It was one of those foundation games or something like that. And he was only 16. He didn't play in the charity game. He had played a couple of pre-season games, and there was a couple of the other players. Granit was there and a couple of others. So, everyone kind of went towards the big players, and then Bukayo sort of was at the back coming through, looking like a young kid, to be honest. And there wasn't many that probably recognised him. And I remember going up to him just to say, well done and keep it up, sort of thing. And he was really surprised that anyone even knew who he was. It was just he was so humble at that age and stuff like that. And it was just, I think I said something tongue in cheek about, just even if you have half the career, as somebody mentioned, I can't remember. I asked him who his best player ever was, and he said something like, I don't even have half the career, but he's probably already had half the career, and he's only 21, 22. But yeah, no, a very, very humble boy, and hopefully will continue to carry us.
Yeah. I think he's a symbol, really, of this new look Arsenal that's emerged. He really is. Him and a couple others. They're just how they are behind the scenes, the way they act, the way they play football. More importantly, I think he's just such a symbol of this Arsenal team that has emerged in the last couple of years.
Absolutely. Right, so on to the book now. Have you got a copy there just to show on the screen, or have you not got a copy anywhere? I'm sure you've got.
I'm at my dad's house, and he does. There is a copy somewhere, but it's not right with me right now. But
we'll get it when we have Adrian Clark on. You can just. But what was the thought process? What happened? Did you wake up one day and think, I want to write a book? Was it? Has it been sort of a lifelong ambition? And I guess why Mikel?
It has been a lifelong ambition, 100%. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, how it all came about was first the publishers reached out to me around sort of February time this year, and said, look, we kind of want to write this book about Arsenal, about Mikel, and about the sort of journey that Arsenal have been on since he was arrived. And they sort of reached out and said, would you be interested in doing it? And obviously it was, like I said, an ambition of mine since forever to write a book. And I thought, I did think about it. It was a tough decision initially because I've got 2 young kids who take up all of my time, and I was working for Goal then, covering football, which again takes up pretty much all your time. And it's like, how on earth am I going to do a book, which I've never done before? And so I did have to think about it a little bit, but then I thought, I can't say no to this. I'd just really regret it. And so we sort of linked up, agreed to it, and it all went from there. Obviously at that point, Arsenal were top of the table, and the big hope was they would go on and win the league, and you'd have this perfect ending to the book. But it was never about winning the league. We said straight away, look, this is whatever happens, we're going to do this story. We're not going to, you know, if Arsenal don't win the league, we're not going to scrap it. We want to do this story because we believe there's a really interesting story to tell there in terms of the journey that the club have been on since Mikel's arrived, the decisions he's taken, the partnerships he's formed with Edu, with people like that, and this new, young, vibrant team that has come up from pretty much nowhere. And, you know, in the space of a couple of years, taken a club that, you know, it's probably a bit dramatic to say it hit rock bottom, but was in, you know, in dire need of someone to come in and sort of pick it up and send it in a direction that it desperately needed. And we just thought that was a good story to tell, and Arsenal fans would be very interested to read it. And so that was the kind of how it all, that was the birth really of how it all happened.
Where do you sort of start though? I mean, you got the idea, the publishers have approached you, you kind of, you know, you sort of agree with the principle, you know it's a good story to tell, but I mean, day one of book writing, well, where do you even start?
I honestly, mate, it was, I mean, I'd never done anything like this before, obviously, so I was totally going into an unknown here. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'd basically sort of pieced out what I wanted to do, because I wanted to start the book on Mikel as a player. And I wanted to sort of take it back to his time at Arsenal, and I also thought it was really important to talk about his time at Manchester City and this kind of the people he looked up to, talking about Johan Cruyff, Pep Guardiola, people like that. So I sort of pieced together, I was like, right, the first chapter is going to be about him as a player at Arsenal and as a captain, and him retiring and how that all happened. And then I'm going to talk about Manchester City. And I knew I wanted to end the first section of the book with basically him being appointed as manager. But I thought that first part was a really important story to tell, because that was sort of set in the sort of green shoots of how Mikel became the manager and what sort of man he became, and the principles he had, and the people he looked up to have been so influential in his career. And I thought that was a really important story to tell. So I knew that was going to be how I started, but I just remember sitting there the first day and thinking, what have I let myself in for here? I have no idea what I'm doing.
Also, just on that, so you know, you said you started that sort of goal 2017 and football London, sorry, 2017, and we want to go in 19. So presumably a little bit of it was sort of before your time as Arsenal correspondent. I know you've always been an Arsenal fan, so you've always known the story, but obviously Mikel being captain, Mikel signing for Arsenal, all that kind of stuff was all before. And then the Man City would be just like anyone else. You probably read the same thing we all read. So then how do you get that information? How do you develop sources? How do you get that input in from people to make sure you're telling a factual sort of, you know, you're telling the factual truth sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just contacts really. It's like I had some really good help from people who have been really great for me in the book. Like I sort of sat down and did a big sort of research interview with Dick Law, for example, who told me the brilliant story of how Mikel was signed on that day and that crazy 48-hour period. And, you know, Dick was brilliant and gave me loads of great insight into that as a player. I spoke with Colin Lewin, for example, who was great about, again, that sort of signing and the medical. Well, there wasn't a medical. It was the only one he's ever done over signing. There's never been where there wasn't a medical. They just signed it because they didn't have time, because they had so many different players to sign in one day. And got some really good stories from Colin about Mikel, what he was like as a player behind the scenes, you know, when he was injured and stuff like that, and what the sort of character he was. I spoke with Bakary Sagna, who was brilliant again, who gave me so many great stories about Mikel as a player, as a captain, about what he was like at Arsenal on the pitch, but off it as well, and the sort of gatherings he used to have at his house and things like that. And Bakary was brilliant in terms of getting some real insight into what it was like at Manchester City as well, because he was at City at the time when Mikel went there, and he had this weird experience of being Mikel's mate, who was going around house for barbecues to watch Barcelona versus Real Madrid as a mate, and then suddenly he was his boss at Manchester City, and Bakary said I just don't know how to act, and he said he wouldn't want to wish that on anyone, because it's like he didn't know if he could go and talk to him or if it's stand off. And that was really interesting, I thought, because when Mikel then came back to Arsenal, you had sort of 5-6 players who were basically in that same position there as Bakary was at Manchester City. They used to be teammates with Mikel at Arsenal, and now suddenly he's the boss. And
and if you think about it, a lot of those players didn't quite work out. You know, obviously Mesut Ozil was a famous one, but even Hector Bellerin, who I don't think there was anything, it didn't go wrong, but it was it didn't quite work out for Hector here, and eventually they both agreed it was time for him to go. So it must be weird, and obviously Bakary was at AST 23 weeks ago, and he did talk about the El Clasico, and he said he used to go, so they both used to live in sort of the northwest kind of part and very close together, similar age kids, and he said Mikel used to invite him over. But then Mikel would just go into like, is it a 3-4-1? Is it a 2-4-3-3? Is there a pivot? Is there a thing? And Bakary just said, I just want to watch the Clasico. Like I just he was very intense, and Sandy had talked about that on the night, which was quite interesting. So
it just paints a great picture of the guy that Mikel is, though, isn't it? When it comes to football, he just takes it so incredibly seriously. And like Bakary was saying, he barely got through the door. He was just looking for the crisps, and yet Mikel's saying, right, what formation is tonight? And it just paints a really good picture and gives really good insight into the sort of, Mikel the man, and how obsessive he is about football and getting everything right and the little fine details in everything.
So that's the first chapter, and then what's the next bit? Obviously,
and then we just go through basically from that point onwards. It's just a story of Mikel and of Arsenal led by Mikel. So we got his first half a season that takes up a big chunk, culminating in the FA Cup win, and then we just tell the story of each season as it happens, and each sort of layer of the rebuild as it happens, and the big decisions that are taken, the highs, the lows, and obviously culminating in the final in last season.
And when you start projects like this, presumably you sort of let the club know you're doing it, you let Mikel know. Does he? Does he? I mean, did he have any input? Has he read it? Have you sent him a copy? Was he okay with you doing it?
I'm sending him. I'm actually
as well, right? To think, will he be all right with me doing it? Because you don't want to ruin your relationship.
No. Yeah, I'm actually, weirdly enough, I'm actually sending him a copy tomorrow. I had that very conversation today.
It's just him and mine you've forgotten then, right?
yeah, exactly that. I mean, because it's not an official book, obviously. Yeah. Arsenal were well aware of it, and we were having discussions about it and stuff as it was going on. But because it wasn't an official Arsenal book, there was very limited stuff they could do because they don't know what's going to be in it, and they can't really back it. And then suddenly there's a load of real controversial stuff slagging off the owners and Kroenkes, and then suddenly it's backed by Arsenal. Like, I was hoping Martin Odegaard was going to do the forward, and those conversations were ongoing for it. But ultimately, because it all comes back down to that because it's not an official book, if you got the club captain doing a nice forward about it, and then suddenly there's stuff in it that the club don't like or the owner doesn't like or something like that, it could get everyone into a bit of trouble. So it was that they knew what was going, what was happening. They knew that it was coming out and all that, and there were conversations, but it was never, a sort of me and them type partnership doing it. It was just very much me and my story and of my take of what it was like as a journalist covering it all over the years, and then them actually playing a sort of significant part in it themselves.
Probably a good sort of point to pause actually, because we just want to let everyone know about a raffle we're doing. So we are doing an online raffle, and the link will be shared with the recording and the newsletter probably tomorrow, rather than sort of put the raffle in the chat and have it come with. Last time we had some feedback that it ruined people's experience on their phones and devices because they couldn't get rid of the link and stuff like that. But just so you know, there's going to be an Arsenal men's shirt, there's going to be an Arsenal women's shirt, signed shirt obviously to be won. There's going to be a copy of Charles's book, which is going to be signed by Charles, and there's also one of the David Dein books that we've got left that is also signed by David Dein. So the link will be shared with everyone. The tickets are about £5 each. Buy as many tickets as you want. The proceeds will be going to the Arsenal Foundation and the Willow Foundation, and that will be in addition to the 5 or 6,000 we raised a couple of weeks ago as well. So please do give generously. And of course, there is a Q&A on Zoom on the Zoom as well. So if you do want to ask Charles a question, or Adrian, who'll be on in the next few minutes as well, please do ask. And actually on Charles, on the book, I remember we had David Dein at an event with us as well, and obviously I don't think Arsenal sort of backed his book either, didn't sell it in the Armoury for that reason. I think there was, I'm not sort of you know, I'm not stirring the pot here. The recording is there for everyone to see on YouTube. When David Dein came to an event, I think it was a sense of he was, you know, Arsenal thought he was critical to the owners, so they didn't sort of have his book. So it's it just triggered that sort of thought. But so the book's out on Thursday, Charles. I mean, where can people get it? What should people do? What's your advice to people that want to read it?
Well, there are a few different options. You can pre-order it from your sort of usual stuff. So obviously Amazon, you can Amazon, Waterstones, WH Smith, that's all available to pre-order now. You can do it direct through the publishers, who are HarperCollins. There is a website link for that, and that's got all your other places where you can pre-order it from as well. There's also Goldsborough Books store in Covent Garden. I'm heading up there in the next week or so to sign a lot of copies, which is going to be interesting. And they are going to be available to order through Goldsborough Books online, sort of exclusive signed copies. It's limited edition, so they're sort of first come, first serve, so you can do that as well. And this coming Thursday at the Tollington, we've got a big launch night, which should be lots of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Please do come so that I'm not the only person there sitting on my own with lots of unsigned books. That sort of starts, doors open from sort of 4 p.m. and books, Stoke Newington Bookshop are down there as part of the night. So there's going to be plenty of books for sale there. You can buy the book. I'm going to be there from about 5 o'clock, going to to sign them all. And then from about 7 p.m. onwards, 7:15, we're going to have a big sort of conversation Q&A type part. It's going to be me, James McNicholas, who obviously you all know as Gunner Blog, Sam Dean from The Telegraph. We're all going to be there doing a sort of panel type thing where we're going to be talking about Arsenal reactions to the Champions League draw, which is going to be on in the screens at the Tollington as part of the night. Talking about Mikel, talking about Arsenal, the start of the season, and of course opening the floor up to all the questions from the audience who are going to be there. You don't have to pay. It's totally free. Just come down if you're around and join in what should be a really fun night of Arsenal chat.
Oh, and that sounds like that's probably the best. But if you're in London, that's probably the best place to get a signed copy. And if you're not, then potentially the online book. And I'm sure the Tollington will probably purchase a few copies, which they'll get you to sign as well. They usually have them on. So if you are not around Thursday, but you are around Sunday for the United game, I'm sure you'll be able to pick up a copy then. But I've kind of said it now, so they sort of have to do it now, Charles. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure. Hopefully, Martin will agree. You know Martin well. You can put in a word.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right, I want to welcome Adrian Clark. Hopefully he's had his dinner. I've given him 15 extra minutes. There he is. And we just want to have a bit of an Arsenal discussion with you both. Adrian, how are you? First time for the season. Happy new season.
Yeah, good to see you all. It's lovely to be back. Nice to get invited. It's never a chore, is it, talking about the Arsenal? So happy days. Look, it's been a bit of a mixed start, I suppose, but look, we're still in a pretty good position, and I'm looking forward to the season ahead.
Perfect. Before I kind of start on sort of the topics we want to start about, Charles, there sort of was a question actually from Brett, and he said, like, have you sort of already started on the update kind of on the book on, like, if we were to win the league or something like that? So if it kind of does go really well this season, obviously there's an extra chapter there to be written. Have you sort of already started to think about that, or is it too soon?
No, well, I have started to think about it because the paperback copy version comes out next year. I can't remember exactly when it is, so I'm going to have to be writing it fairly soon. start doing it. So there is going to be a next chapter. Hopefully, it does end with a Premier League trophy in our hands, or the Champions League. Who knows? So, but yeah, that is very much at the forefront of my mind at the moment.
Cool. And then John Griffin, I think it's quite widely known, but he's asked Charles, you as you're the Mikel expert tonight, is it right Mikel was on the final shortlist for the manager's job before Unai Emery was appointed? That you know, or was that untrue?
Yes, 100%. Mikel, it's in the book actually. Mikel, he absolutely thought he had the job until 24 hours before Unai was appointed. Mikel absolutely thought he had the job and was putting a coaching staff together. So yes.
And John might not have been a member of the AST then, but we actually held an event on the night Unai Emery was announced with Henry Winter to the left of me and Ray Parlour to my right. And we had done a little briefing saying that we think the news is going to come about the new Arsenal manager. So we're all expecting it to be Mikel Arteta sort of thing. And then David Ornstein went and broke it was Unai Emery. And literally Ray being Ray said, I don't really know much about this guy, so I'm not sure what I can add. Henry being Henry said, I need to go and write a piece. It was left to me to do a little bit about some guy who I knew he was a little bit of a European specialist, but didn't know much about him. But yeah, that was quite an interesting night. So, but hey ho. But all right, let's talk about this season so far. Adrian, if I come to you first, just to give Charles a couple of minutes and potentially a chance to look for that book. How's the season gone so far, would you feel? It's, 7 out of 9 points. On paper, it's okay-ish, I suppose. If you're drawn to Palace and not Fulham, you maybe say it's been okay. But I don't know, what how would you kind of rate it?
I would have expected 9. I think so, slightly below par. I don't think the chemistry has really taken off, has it, in the way that we saw it last season. So I think that's the big change. Obviously, we're going to get into it, I'm sure, over the next few minutes, but there's been a lot of experimentation, a lot of trying out new things. And with that, I think we've sort of just not stuttered as such, but just not been quite at our fluent best. That said, we absolutely dominated Nottingham Forest, and that game was comfortable up until right at the end, where things got needlessly nervy. Crystal Palace, I was very, very impressed by us. Actually, I thought we controlled that game with 11v11, and then did a terrific job with a 10, and against Fulham, they scored with their first 2 shots on target. It was another match that Arsenal had controlled without ever being at our fluent best. We were all over Fulham in that game, and yeah, look, they ended up with 3 shots on target, and 2 of those were in the last few minutes. So yeah, it's been frustrating. I think that the goals that we've conceded have been poor, in terms of that counter attack against Nottingham Forest, and then the 2 gifts against Fulham. So yeah, I'm frustrated that we don't have 9 points, but we don't want to be peaking now, do we? We want to be, take an upward curve this time around and come on strong. But yeah, look, I don't think there's any need to panic, but we'd all hope for something a little bit better, I guess, at this point.
Before I come to Charles, just Adrian, just on the fluidity and that, what did you think of pre-season? Did you think in pre-season we looked a bit more fluid, or did you think actually were the signs there that we haven't quite, we've only obviously signed 3, maybe 4 players with a goalkeeper now, but did you feel in pre-season that actually there are some warning signs here?
Is that for me or Charles?
Well, for you, Adrian.
Oh, sorry. I didn't think our pre-season was anywhere near as good as last season's pre-season. I think we can all see that. Anyone that watched the games. It's just experimentation, isn't it? It's obviously Jurrien Timber looked fantastic until he got his injury. That was a major plus. Look, it was good that Kai Havertz scored some goals during pre-season. Obviously, he hasn't got off to the best of start in the Premier League, but he did show signs on tour that he can pop up and deliver goals. But yeah, I would say that the cohesion of the team is slightly different. Obviously, I think Zinchenko's absence is huge on that, because he is one of the players that makes us tick in midfield by playing those progressive forward passes. Declan Rice didn't get much of a look in pre-season because he had 1 or 2 little niggles, didn't he? So he was a little bit behind coming into that opening day. And I think if you saw his performance level, say in the last couple of games of pre-season, Monaco, Community Shield and Forest, they went up a gear, up a little bit each time, and then the jump from Forest to Palace was massive. And I think that was just 9 days of training, and he'd got himself up to speed. So that's made a big difference. So yeah, we've got different partnerships all over the pitch, different units, and when you change things like that and ask people to do different things, it's probably unrealistic to expect them to do it brilliantly right from the get-go.
Actually, it was Henry Windsor at AST20 said, after the Community Shield and the Forest game, he thinks if you think Declan Rice has been good, he's actually been 6 out of 10. And Henry obviously has watched him for England so much and said there's so much to come. And I think at the Palace game, we did think, wow, we've got a real player here. Charles, sort of similar sort of thing. I mean, I think I heard you on another podcast saying you didn't see the Forest game live. You were sort of travelling back from your sort of family holidays and stuff, but you were obviously at the last couple. What would you make of the first 3 games?
Yeah, I've got similar views to Adrian. Really, it's been a little bit stop-start. I don't think it's been bad by any means. I mean, you're sitting here with 7 points from 9, and really should be 9 points from 9. It's not been. I think the reaction to what happened against Fulham has been slightly over the top, certainly online. It was a stupid 2 points to throw away, and so I can understand people are a little bit upset by that, but I don't think it's been a disastrous start by any means. Like Adrian said, there's lots of new things going on, partnerships being formed. I don't really like what Mikel's doing in terms of the defense at the moment. I'm just not sure what. I don't know. I just look back to that back four we had last season and how good they were together and how important Ben White was on the right-hand side in terms of his partnership with Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard. And to take that away, when there was no real signs in pre-season he was going to do that, it's just been a bit of a surprise, taking Gabriel out of the team. And I'm just not sure it's working. I think that's impacting Arsenal's fluidity a little bit and their threat down the right-hand side. And I'm really hoping against Manchester United that we see that Zinchenko is fit enough to start and he comes back in, and that might see Mikel revert a little bit to what we saw last season. Maybe Gabriel comes back in alongside Saliba and Ben goes back out to the right-hand side. But I just think it's a bit of a work in progress. Everyone's sort of comparing it to last season, but last season was a bit of a one-off in terms of it was a record-breaking start by Arsenal, and it's record-breaking for a reason. It just doesn't happen very often. You don't win 9 out of 10 games to start a season very often, and so you can't really compare it to that because that was just a one-off. It was
Not sure either, was there?
It's like a 1 in every 50-year event type thing, and so. I think we just got to accept that it's probably not going to happen this time, and you're going to have games where it doesn't quite go your way, and so I think there's definitely room for improvement, but I don't think it's been awful by Arsenal in any means. But it would be nice to see them turn up against United and just look a little bit more on it. And they've just got to cut out doing stupid things and about they can't concede a goal inside the first minute at home again. They've done it 3 times in the last 9 games. I saw an amazing stat that. From the Premier League inception in '93 to the Bournemouth game this year, Arsenal conceded 2 goals at home in the first minute. So what's that in like 30 odd years? And now they've done it 3 times in 9 games. And it's just, and as soon as you do that, the game just turns chaotic because it gives the opposition something to protect, something even more to protect. And it just sends Arsenal into that sort of, the games just all become big, like you think Bournemouth, Southampton, and Fulham, it was all the same sort of game, wasn't it? It was just sort of chaos of trying to get back, all that emotional stress of trying to get yourself back level and then get yourselves in front. And games shouldn't be like that. You need a bit of more ball control. And the whole thing Arteta is about is control. And we've not seen that in those sort of home games.
Before I come to Adrian, Chloe, I'm going to come to you in about 5 minutes just for questions from the Q&A. I can see there's a few there. Adrian, you talked about partnerships, and Charles has talked about partnerships, and there's new partnerships. But one partnership was Saliba and Gabriel, and obviously when Saliba went off against Sporting Lisbon last year, that partnership was broken, and we haven't seen it back, even though they're both fit at the moment. And do you think there's something in this? Do you think it's purely because Zinchenko's out and Thomas Partey can then be that inverted fullback, or what's your view on the whole situation?
Well, I hope there's nothing in it. I hope there's nothing in it. I hope it's just a tactical idea that he's had. I really do, because it is a head scratcher for those of us from the outside looking in, because their partnership is exceptional and they've had so many good games together, very few in different performances as a partnership. So yeah, I'm like every other Arsenal supporter. I kind of want to see Gabriel back in that starting 11. My view is that I don't think this was the plan until Timber got injured. I think that it was going to be Timber left back until Zinni came back. and it would be Gabriel, Saliba and White, and Timber would be the guy that inverts a little bit like Zinchenko does from the left. And he was doing it in pre-season, he was doing it very well. Timber being out threw a real spanner in the works in terms of what do we do at left back. And I think that, yeah, he just had the idea. He tried it towards the end of last season, sometimes with Thomas Partey at right back, and that's what he went with. I think he's gone with that because we had three relatively winnable fixtures as well at the start of the season, where we dominate possession, and he thought this is an opportunity to try something new with Partey there, White, Saliba, and then instead of Gabriel, somebody else. You know, whether it's been Tommy, it's been Kivior. I guess he just doesn't feel comfortable putting Gabriel as a sort of a left back. That's the only reason I can see. Tomiyasu's played left back before, so is Kivior. So I think that's the logic. Until Zinchenko comes back, and when he comes back, and I'm assuming he'd probably start the next game, I think we might see Partey back in midfield and White back at right back, and hopefully Gabriel back in the first team. That's my hope. And
who drops out? Is it Kai Havertz or?
Well, out of the mid, yeah, I think, yeah, my team. If we're going to go, my team for Manchester United, probably irrespective of what we've seen before, but my team based on form and what I've seen so far, and with it being a tougher fixture, would be Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, and White. With Zinchenko doing the inverting, and then I'd have Partey in central midfield. I'd have Rice just to his left and Ødegaard just to his right, with the front three that's worked so well. Eddie up top and Saka and Martinelli either side. That's the team I'd have for Manchester United. I would leave out Kai. I'm not one of these that thinks, you know, I'm writing him off after 3 games. I just think he's not looking that sharp at the moment. Looks a little bit short on confidence, and I don't see the necessity to start with 2 such attacking players, Havertz and Ødegaard, against Manchester United, because they're very, very dangerous counter-attacking side. You know, they'll have, who they have? They'll have Bruno Fernandes for sure in and around those areas where they might be. And I just think that I would feel safer with Rice in closer proximity to Bruno Fernandes than Kai Havertz. So yeah, that's what I'd go for. But you know, moving forwards, I expect Kai to be given lots of opportunities, and I expect him to improve massively because he's clearly got a lot of talent. He's a very good player.
Charles, a couple of days left of the window. There has been interest in Gabriel from Saudi. We've all seen the rumours, the papers, people sort of have been talking about it. Is there something in that, or well, there's clearly something in it, I suppose, but is it going to lead somewhere, or is it actually, as you know, we're going to sort of be how we are now with him staying?
I think he'll stay. I'd be very surprised if Arsenal sell now. There's definitely something in it, 100% something in it. But, you know, I mean, Arsenal, from a pure footballing point of view, they'd be absolutely crazy with 2 days left of the window to consider selling Gabriel. It would just, I just don't see any positive coming from that, because you'd have to replace him. And so even if you got a huge amount of money from the Saudis for him, whoever you then turn to, that club's going to know you're desperate for a centre-back and that you've got 2 days to sign someone, and you're going to have to basically put all the money back out and bring someone in who you're then going to have to bed in, who hasn't been around the club for a few years and hasn't got this brilliant relationship with William Saliba. So, yeah, I mean, I think Arsenal would be absolutely crazy. So, I mean, you can never say never in football, but I'd be very surprised. And I was speaking to someone today, and certainly the feeling I got that he was going to be an Arsenal player at the end of this window. The only thing is, of course, the Saudi transfer window stays open for 2 more weeks after the one here shuts. So although the window might have shut here on Friday, there's still another couple of weeks where the Saudi clubs or PIF can throw all that money on the table and potentially turn heads. But
which can't be right. That's absolute nonsense, isn't it? Yeah.
It is mad. And I thought Mikel was really right to call that out at the press conference last week, because it's something they've got to, you know, if the Saudis are going to be major players, you know, and aren't going to go anywhere, which appears to be the case, then you can't have that sort of disruption in the market where you could really have impact on clubs and squads. And, you know, I think that's something that they're going to have to look at very, very soon.
Cool. I think we're going to bring Chloe in, because I know there's a few questions, and otherwise we'll just end up, I'll cover them. But Chloe, do you want to cover a couple of the questions and we'll come back?
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of chat about Emile Smith-Rowe. Do we think there's any truth about him departing? And also wanting to understand, you know, what is it that perhaps Arteta doesn't like about him? Because he's clearly a fan's favourite, but he's obviously not getting the opportunities necessarily.
So if we go
I'll
to-
put that to both of you, please.
Well, if we go to Charles first about do we think there is genuine interest from Chelsea, and then Adrian more about sort of where he fits in and where you think his best role is, and potentially what Mikel thinks, which none of us know. But Charles,
Yeah,
Is
well,
there
I think Chelsea have, as far as I'm aware, there's been no bid from Chelsea for him, but there has been a kind of conversation about whether he might be available. To which I've been told that he is not. Again, you can never say never in football. If someone comes in and whacks a huge amount of money, and that, you know, there's not many players in this Arsenal squad, or there are some that are not for sale that buy for any sort of money, but there are others, I think, who maybe don't get that many minutes, who, if someone put a huge amount of money, 60 million maybe for Smith Rowe, that Arsenal would think, you know, we've probably got to consider that. But from right now, I've been told that, you know, there's nothing in it, and he is very much part of the plans. He sat down with Mikel, with Edu, and Emil's agent. They had a big meeting around June time, just at the end of last season, basically, to sort of sit down and work out what the future was going to be. And, you know, Emil and his reps clearly wanted to know what Mikel's plans were, because he didn't feature much at all last season, even though he was fit when he came back from that knee op for the second half of it. And they were very much told that he's still part of the plans and that Mikel wants to use him. And so, you know, Emil was happy with that. And I think I've heard that he has worked really, really hard in the summer. He's in really good shape. He's pain-free for the first time in a long time because of that knee op. It has worked very well. And he really wants to push himself to get into the team, which for me is great news, because I think Emil's such a good player. He's got so much to give. I thought Mikel underused him in the second half of last season. There was opportunities there to play him that he didn't take. And I think you've got to give those sort of players minutes a bit to sort of show themselves. Look at what Fabio Vieira did on Saturday when he got his game time. You know, he sees that opportunity, and I'd love to see Smith Rowe be able to do that at some point as well. But so, yeah, I don't think he's going to go. I'd be very, very surprised. But yeah, you always have to caveat that with the fact that you can never say never until the window's closed, because you just don't know what money's going to arrive.
Adrian, he wears a number 10. Is he a number 10? Could he play number 8? Could he play wide? Where do you see him featuring if he does come in?
He can play in any of those positions. I think this left-sided central midfield attacking role, it could be filled by so many players, and that's part of the problem. It's probably his best position. If I think about his best moments in an Arsenal shirt, the goals that he scored, the surges that he's made down the pitch, it's been down in that channel. So, you know, you got Kai Havertz who can play there. You got Fabio Vieira, who was brilliant at the weekend in that position. Obviously, we need more consistency from him, but he showed what he's all about. You've got Trossard, who did very well in pre-season in that position. And then you've got Declan Rice, because I've just picked Declan Rice in that position for the Man United game. So see, like, he's 4th or 5th down in the pecking order in that position, and that's probably his best position. That's how harsh it is. He can absolutely I think he could cover for Martinelli. I think he could cover for Bukayo Saka as well. And if we were really short on strikers, he could probably play as a false 9 as well. But none of that really gets him into the first team on a regular basis, does it, at the moment? It's a real quandary. Under no circumstances would I want Arsenal to sell Emil Smith Rowe to Chelsea. Clearly, that, you know, please may that never happen. But he does need to play, doesn't he? He needs games. If I'm just thinking, putting myself into his shoes as a player at his age, looking at that scenario, I'm thinking, where am I going to get games? How can I win over Mikel Arteta if I don't get the minutes? So that is an issue that they need to sort of thrash out between them. It may be that he goes on a loan. I don't know, like until January or something, with a break clause, or I don't know, but he needs to play, because if he's not playing, he's not getting the chance to win Mikel Arteta over, is he? It must be so frustrating for him. But we are so well stocked with players with his skill set that he just finds himself sort of at the back of the queue, which is so tough on him, so tough.
That's what I was talking about, Adrian. When, like, last season, I thought there was so many opportunities in that second half of the season when Mikel could have turned to him. I think of I remember the game that when Bukayo was on the bench because he'd been ill and not trained the day before, and Arsenal were winning 3-0 in that second half, and Mikel brought on Bukayo rather than Emil, and you're just thinking, why couldn't Emil got 25 minutes to show what he could do? Same at Fulham in that game when Arsenal won 3-0 at Craven Cottage, and then Gabriel Jesus came back. You know, there was opportunities there when the game was done and dusted at 3-0 to bring Emil on in that second half, and he didn't. And if you're not going to get minutes in those sort of games, how are you going to try and seize your opportunity to impress the manager? And that's what I'd just like to see Mikel sort of change that a little bit this season. If there are opportunities there to give the likes of Emil some game time, I think he needs to do that if Emil's going to stick around, which I hope he does.
Yeah, I don't know what it is that has put the manager off of Emil Smith-Rowe. I don't think any of us know, because he's had injuries, and maybe he hasn't been at his very best for quite some time because of those, because he's playing in pain. But yeah, I don't know whether there's something on the training ground that he sees that he's skeptical about. Because for me, Emil Smith-Rowe works hard. He can do all the off the ball work that the others can do, and he's technically perfect for the way that we play. So yeah, it's a bit of a mystery. I just hope we get to see a bit more of him.
Just in the other news, the PFA team has been announced, and there's 4 Arsenal players in there. Aaron Ramsdale, so congratulations to Rammers. When we will talk about the goalkeeping situation. William Saliba has got one of the centre-back places. Bukayo, obviously, as you would expect, and our captain Martin Odegaard also made the team. So congratulations to them 4. Chloe, another topic?
So yeah, sort of on the theme of perhaps players that we haven't seen play as regularly as we might have expected. What are our thoughts around Kieran Tierney? And just in terms of, you know,
what is it right to let him go? Is it?
Yeah.
It's a little bit. It's a similar situation to Emil Smith-Rowe, isn't it? It felt like he was 3rd or 4th in line to play at left back, and then we were just talking earlier about the issue at left back when Zinchenko isn't there. Who do you stick there now that Timber's not available? And it seems unreal, really, that Kieran Tierney isn't an option. But that was the stage it had got to, wasn't it? So yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I think he's a very good defender. Love him going forward. But I just think he's not a stylistic misfit, but he's not a stylistic fit for what Mikel wants at the moment from his fullbacks. That's it.
The big thing I'm surprised is that Arsenal couldn't get a buyer for Tierney this summer. I thought there'd be a big market for him. I think he walks into almost half the Premier League teams and improves them, and I'm just really shocked.
Why was that, Charles? I mean, Newcastle.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. As you know, Arsenal were they wanted to sell him, but Premier League clubs just didn't come in for him. Newcastle were absolutely interested throughout the summer. Arsenal were waiting for that to sort of materialize and get and sort of go further, and it never did. And it was, it's quite striking. As soon as Newcastle signed Lewis Hall, that was when Arsenal sanctioned the Sociedad deal, because that was kind of they'd been waiting to try and sell him permanently. They had this option of Sociedad for a fair while, but they were hoping to get him out on a permanent basis. But for whatever reason, Premier League clubs just didn't come knocking, and I'm really surprised, because I think, like Adrian said, I think he's a really good defender. Arsenal evolved in a way that sort of went beyond Kieran Tierney in a way, just because, and that's no fault of his own. It's just the type of player he is and the style he is, and we know the left back that Mikel Arteta likes. But yeah, I'm just really surprised that no one's on. I hope he has a brilliant year in Sociedad. That's a fantastic move for him, by the way. I think it's a brilliant place to play football, Champions League football. If he stays injury free, I think he'll have a great season over there, and that hopefully will mean, there will be a very strong market for him next summer as well, and Arsenal can still get a good chunk of the money back that they invested, if not all of it. So, because they are quite strong in terms of his contract, he's still got 3 years left. But yeah, I hope he has a great season over there. Yeah,
me too. And the thing that sort of really frustrated me last season was seeing him in central midfield, because it was so alien to him playing that, trying to basically mimic Zinchenko, and he was never going to look as good as Zinchenko in that position. I just think we missed a trick there. Maybe we should have played it, because he can play left side centre back, so he could have been the one that sort of stayed back. And I think Ben White could have just come in field. He's played central midfield before and done that from the other side. So I think that our recent memories of Tierney are as much about him sort of popping up in those positions as they are bombing up and down the wing. For me, he's a guy that is better out wide.
Chloe, one more topic before I let you go. And then...
Well, one more topic, because there's been a couple of mentions of his name, appreciating its early days, but do you think we're going to miss Xhaka this season?
That wasn't me that put the question.
No.
Adrian, I guess from a sort of style point of view, you know, is it just early days? And, you know, obviously Granit was here 7 years, so he was obviously established, but it's just a matter of time before someone does replace him. But we are missing him for the first couple of games. We can't
I think
lie.
so. Yeah, no, he had a blinder, didn't he, on his last game against Wolves? Absolutely superb. What a way to go out that was.
He also had a blinder on the weekend. He went back to his old club, Richard Gladbach, and they won 3-0 Leverkusen, and he was fantastic. So
he's a good player, but look, he's in his 30s, and he wanted to move back to Germany, and it gives us an opportunity to reduce the age of our central midfield by quite a bit. And yeah, it's just a case of building those partnerships, isn't it? Xhaka and Martinelli and Jesus and Partey, they had an Ødegaard, they all had a really good connection, didn't they, last year? Everything was done quickly, crisply, progressive forward passes all game long. It just worked. And at the moment, I just feel that whoever's playing in that position, and at the moment it's been Kai Havertz, he's just maybe taking the extra touch to be sure. I think he looks a little bit on edge, which I think is probably understandable, because he knows Arsenal fans some of them are skeptical. He knows it. He's not silly. He knows that there's been a lot of Chelsea flops come to Emirates Stadium, so he's determined not to be another one. So all of that, if you're a sensitive kind of guy, can just make you clam up a little bit. He just needs a goal. He needs a release, a contribution where he does something that wins us a game, and then I think he'll be away. But at the moment, he's just a little bit tense. And
I read the stat that he's covered the most ground or something.
Well, he did. He made. I think he made the most or the second most off the ball runs of all players last season. He moves a lot, and I think Arsenal's players are more equipped to find him with those runs than Chelsea's were. So I'm confident it will work. But yeah, based on the evidence we've seen so far, we're all a little bit sort of underwhelmed, I guess, at the outset. But it doesn't mean that this is his potential. He's got a lot more to give. But the truth is, and football's a brutal game, it's Vieira came on and changed the game, and he outshone him, didn't he, in the same role? So Vieira is now a lot closer to Havertz in regards to starting the next game or the one after.
In fact, it's been over a year, I suppose, longer. But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Charles, just from a journalist media perspective, and I read a piece actually from a journalist, I can't remember who it was, but they talked about Kai Havertz, and they kind of compared him to the Mesut Ozil situation, not the player, the situation. You know, quite an expensive German international coming in, not quite doing it, and then it had moments, but obviously we know how Ozil's career filtered. But you know, I know it's different for you being an Arsenal fan and stuff like that, but it is, you know, the media role is really interesting here, isn't it? Whether it's, should you be critical? Should you not be critical? I mean, what it can play a big part in a player's kind of career, and I guess the fan sort of their thought process as well, because fans read things and it gets in their heads and potentially stays with them.
Yeah, I mean, it does obviously, but yeah, of course you can be critical. It's football. You're going out playing for Arsenal. You're opening yourself up to criticism. You're going to be judged on performances. There's a line, of course, and I think a lot of the stuff that's come out that's been said about Havertz, or certainly directed towards me about Havertz in replies to conversations I've had online and everything, has just been utterly just ridiculous and over the top as usual, and just horrible. But clearly he's struggling for form. He's not at his best yet. But he's played 3 games in the Premier League. It's 3 matches. And I didn't think he did anything wrong in the first 2, by the way. I just thought he put in 2 7 out of 10 performances. He didn't do anything great, but he did nothing wrong. And Mikel Arteta would have been going home from the game against Crystal Palace very happy with what Kai Havertz produced for him at Selhurst Park. Obviously, Saturday was tougher for him and he struggled, and you could see the confidence sort of draining out of him. That moment in the second half when he could have got the ball on the turn and headed down, played Eddie in, but he went backwards, got the touch wrong, and the whole crowd got on his back. You know, you could see, you felt like, this is a bad moment for him. And I wasn't surprised that Mikel quickly got him off at that point, because he needed protecting and he didn't want things to get any worse.
He wasn't the only one though, was he?
No, he wasn't. They were all doing it, but I think Havertz is in that unfortunate position that Adrian talks about. He's coming from Chelsea. You've got all the history of that. He was always the one player who some sections of the fan base were not going to afford at any time. The others, Declan Rice, Timber, were going to be given time to bed themselves in and play him, but Havertz wasn't. He was always going to be judged straight away because so many fans thought, why have we paid 65 million for this player who we've seen underwhelm Chelsea for the last few years? So he was just going to have no time to do it, and all eyes were going to be on him straight away. And he would have known that, and it's just up to him to perform. And I have no doubt that, as Adrian said, if he gets himself a goal early soon, and he can be away because he's a very good player. He works really hard, by the way. His running stats, his recoveries, everything like that. The numbers are out there. I don't buy into this. He looks lethargic. He's lazy, all that sort of stuff that people are pointing out, because it's just not. The stats don't back that up at all. He works really, really hard. Technically, he's very good, and I think he'll be very good. But he just needs a bit of time to bed in, because Granit played that role so well last season, and we are missing him on the pitch and off the pitch. But Granit's gone now, and you've got to move on. And I think Havertz will prove to be a decent signing for Arsenal, but he just needs a bit of time and a bit of patience. Although I know that word doesn't always sort of be at the forefront of every football fan's mind.
But in the box, which is where we sort of remember Granit from last season, in theory, Kai Havertz should be deadlier. He should be a better finisher. He's been a striker. He's been an attacking midfielder his whole career. He can pass the ball just as well as Granit Xhaka. Maybe not the long range passing that we see from him, but he's a very technical player. He can pick people out. It's also a lot of information. Mikel Arteta is a little bit like Pep Guardiola. I think we all recognise that. And everyone says with Pep teams, it takes you a season to get used to his methods. Well, I don't think Mikel Arteta's methods are that different to Pep Guardiola's. There's a lot of new information, a lot of new ideas. Declan Rice has touched on that, how he feels like he's relearning football. It's quite a lot, and some players just are more receptive quicker than others. And I think he's just maybe overthinking it at times. You just got to play with a little bit more spontaneity and freedom, I think.
Yeah, I sat down with Tomiyasu last year for an interview, and I said to him at that point, Arsenal 5 points clear, and I was like, how have you made this jump from where you were last season, where obviously you're promising, there was good signs? How have you made that jump from there to here now? And he just said, look, we just understand Mikel now. It took us a long time. We knew what he wanted from us last year, but we couldn't put it into action. It was just really tough to get it into our minds, even though we could hear what he was saying. But now we understand it. And it's exactly that point. I think, Havertz coming from Chelsea, where he's had different managers playing different ways, has probably arrived at Arsenal and he's just been overloaded with all this information. And some players adjust to it really well. Declan Rice, I knew would take it pretty well and slot in well, but Havertz might take a little bit more time.
I'll give you one more topic. We've got about 11, 12 minutes left. I'll give you one more topic before I come on to the goalkeepers.
So one thing that it might be quite good to have a little chat about is, have you got your eye on anyone, particularly Adrian, from the youth setup, who you think we might sort of start to see coming through this season?
Oh, it's a good question. I don't watch enough of it. I've got to be honest. I don't get the chance to see enough 90 minutes of the youth games. I mean, I'm well aware of the guys that are in and around the first team. It's very exciting. Obviously, I mean, well, it's hard not to get excited by Ethan Nwaneri and Lewis Skelly as well. Real talents at 16. I mean, it's just crazy how good they are at that age. A number of the guys have impressed me. Kozia Dubry's he's Saka-esque, isn't he, in the way that he plays? It's just unfortunate for them, and it is unfortunate that we're so good at the moment, that we're so strong. Because if this was 3 or 4 years ago when we were struggling, they're going to be much closer to the first team. That's why Saka and Smith Rowe had chances so young, because we were just nowhere near this level. Unfortunately, fortunately for the club, the standards have been driven up massively. But for the youngsters coming through, it just makes that pathway much, much tougher. So yeah, it might be a while before we see them. But hopefully in the Carabao Cup, there might be some appearances, maybe off the bench.
Oh,
So yeah.
thank you, Chloe.
Thank you.
Charles, just been a couple of questions about the sort of window. Obviously, it ends on Friday, and in terms of selling, it maybe hasn't been, maybe it hasn't been as successful as it could have been. We've obviously got, I mean, on the books, we've still got Pepe, we've still got Tavares, we've still got Sambi Lokonga, we've still got Rob Holding, we've still got Cedric Suarez, we've still got, that's about 5 I've just rolled off. Can you expect, are we expecting a few terminations? Are we expecting a few loans? Are we expecting the odd permanent? I mean, obviously Balogun will probably go to Monaco, and that's obviously for a fee, but what would you expect in the next few days?
Yeah, I think Balogun should happen in the next sort of 24 hours or so. Tavares is going at Nottingham Forest. That will be announced fairly soon. It's going to be a loan, though. It was that was one that was happening. It looked like it was going to be a permanent deal, and then it sort of collapsed, and now it's been revisited, and it looks like it's going to be a loan until for the season with a option to buy at the end of it. I think Rob Holding will definitely go. He's talking to a fair few clubs at the moment, and Arsenal are looking to get that done. They're all kind of working together to get him gone. Whether he could go abroad, there's definitely options for him abroad, but there's Premier League club. I think it'd be a really good signing for a Premier League club as well. I think Rob Holding gets a lot of unfair grief. I think he's a very good defender, and he will improve some teams in the Premier League and have a good career with them. So I think he'll go. I don't know about Sambi, honestly. I've heard nothing. I was talking about Sambi to someone today, and I thought he'd go to.
There was a bit of a whisper about Brighton.
Yeah, but they've signed. I've forgotten his name now. Signed someone today for about 30 million in his position. So I was kind of hearing that was potentially his name was put out there to try and convince the club in negotiations with to sell him this player, and it seems to have worked. So yeah, I'm sure Arsenal will look to get him out on loan. He will go somewhere, I imagine, but it's going to be a very last minute thing. So, and Cedric, I wouldn't be surprised if Cedric and Pepe might end up having their contracts terminated. But yeah, I still think if Arsenal with Balogun go in, and if they can get a fee, a remotely decent fee for Holding and a bit of a loan fee for Nuno, on top of Granit and Matt Turner, you're sort of getting up to around the 100 million mark for the summer then, which, other clubs have obviously done better than that, but it's still not a bad figure for Arsenal. And I think they'll be relatively happy with that. It's just the Tierney one, they would have absolutely been expecting 30 million pounds for him at the start of the summer. So to not get that in the sort of accounts, I think they'll be disappointed with that.
Adrian, you're a football manager. You've got 2 really good goalkeepers. How do you keep 2 goalkeepers happy? I thought, just on that, I thought it was really interesting to hear Mikel talk in his pre-match press conference before the Fulham game, and they talked about David Raya, and he said, well, Matty Taylor wanted to go. We needed another goalkeeper. You can't just have one. So you go for the best you can get, and Raya was the best you can get. You don't purposely go for a number 2. You go for another number 1, because I think he cited the example of Thibaut Courtois at Real Madrid, who's obviously got injured, I think he's done his cruciate in, who's now out for several months, and I think Kepa's gone in there. So, but how do you keep 2 keepers happy? And I'm not saying Ramsdale was at fault for any of the goals, because I think actually it was Saka that gave the ball away, But does it, knowing that there's another number 1 sort of sitting there watching you, does that actually put more pressure on you? And maybe, I don't know.
There's definitely more pressure on Ramsdale. I think it's obvious, isn't it? Because he knows that there's a real competition for his spot now, and that every mistake that he makes has potential to prompt the change, because it's easier for Mikel Arteta to make a change with Raya there. So, but that Mikel Arteta's hope is that focuses the mind and gets that extra bit level of concentration out of somebody like Aaron Ramsdale and drives him to greater heights. I mean, if you're Mikel Arteta, you're expecting them to drive each other on, and for standards to just go up and up and up, because just on a day-to-day basis, I don't know if you saw the video of them doing the saves at training. You can just imagine, can't you? Raya pulls off 3 worldies out of the top corner, and then it's Ramsdale's turn. He's got to do the same, hasn't he, just to keep pace with his mate. So it's going to be a really interesting dynamic. I don't envy Mikel with team selection and how he's going to work that out. But I love it from an Arsenal supporting perspective, because if there's, I'm not an anxious kind of guy, really. I'm pretty laid back. But one thing that would have given me, almost sleepless nights is if Aaron Ramsdale got injured, and we have Matt Turner as the backup, because without being too disrespectful to Matt, I think there was a big drop off, and now that's not there, so we can sort of rest easy a little bit. I don't know. Initially, I just thought they'd play Raya in the Champions League and the Carabao Cup and take it from there, and it'll be a bit of a shootout. Whoever impresses most will get the gig. But I maybe Charles, having done such research on Mikel Arteta and his mindset and mentality, he's got a better steer on how he might do it. My instinct tells me that Raya will get the chance, like Ramsdale got the chance quite early, and that Raya might take that opportunity and cement it, because statistically he was the better keeper last year. But the unknown with David Raya is, can he handle being Arsenal's goalie? Because being Arsenal's goalie comes with a whole different level of microscope compared to Brentford. Aaron's proved he's got the personality. He can handle it. We don't know if David Raya can.
That is mad, isn't it? I mean, we've got Raya, who obviously, as you just said, statistically was the better goalkeeper. Yet Ramos is just one PFA player of the year, or goalkeeper of the year in the team. So you've got two real quality keepers there.
Yeah, it's a great option to have, isn't it? I think in any other position in the squad, you're absolutely laughing if you've got two players of that quality fighting out for the same position. But because it's a goalkeeper, it's just a different. You don't normally get it, do you? You don't tend to. If you do have two goalkeepers of that similar quality in a squad, it's rare. And if you do have it, it doesn't tend to last very long. One of them tends to win and the other one tends to leave. And I'm kind of in agreement with Adrian. I feel like right now, by the end of the season, David Raya might well be Arsenal's goalkeeper, number one keeper. I just wonder why, if you're David Raya, why you would join Arsenal if you have not been given some, maybe not assurances, because I doubt, knowing Mikel, he would actually give anyone assurances of a spot. But I think if I was Aaron Ramsdale, I'd probably be a little bit worried about my long-term sort of future as Arsenal's number one with David Raya coming in, especially when the goalkeeping coach is obviously has such a good relationship with David Raya from the time at Brentford. And so, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. And Aaron's going to be under the microscope now. Even the first goal against Fulham at the weekend, he got quite a lot of stick. I thought it was actually a little bit unlucky, because I think the guy is trying to lob him there and he gets his finish all wrong. And Aaron thinks he's going to lob him, is anticipating that, and is beginning to run backwards. And then the guy miskicks it basically, and Aaron's just out of position because of that, because he's been anticipating the lob. So I think it's a little bit unfortunate. I don't really blame Aaron for either of those. But as soon as he does,
not giving away from a back pass. I mean, I'm not going to criticize Bukayo, obviously, because he's amazing. But it was a back pass. He cut the back pass out. It doesn't happen.
That mistake, by the way, that comes out of. I think I would put almost as much blame on Thomas Partey, really, because he jumps into midfield for no real reason. And yeah, Bukayo should see that he's moved, but that was a prime example of this teething issue about, playing players in different positions and trying something different. Yeah, it was just a miscommunication. Nothing is as natural as it will be in a few months' time. So I'm all for this experimentation, by the way, because I think having another way of playing is good, is a positive, because we did get a bit stale last year. Other teams did work out how to sort of negate us to a degree. So I think it's good that we're not standing still, but I don't want this to just be our plan A moving forward. I think this should be one of 2 or 3 different ways of playing.
Well, that obviously Mikel did play Partey right back for 2 games at the end of last season. So he kind of clearly was thinking there is an option there before Declan Rice and Havertz were signed.
Yeah. Did Zinchenko miss the last game? I think he did, didn't he?
He may have. He had a couple of.
I think he did. So yeah, I think it was in his head then, and he's just rolled with it. So yeah. It's. I think it's good to. I think it's good to try different things, and I think it's normal that it doesn't go 100% smoothly. And the bottom line is, it didn't go 100% smoothly, but barring 2 ridiculous gifts that we gave Fulham, we'd have 9 points out of 9. even though
I
things.
didn't think Arsenal were terrible against Fulham at all. You know, I don't really like the system that they're playing, but I don't think they played badly against Fulham. They played 9 times out of 10, they win that game pretty comfortably with the performance that they put in there.
Yeah.
But as Adrian said, they just did a couple of really stupid things at the back and got punished for it. They missed some big chances at the other end, and it was just one of those days, which obviously is a cliche, but it really did feel like one of those days in the end. But I don't think they were bad. And I think a big part of the recruitment this summer has been around making Arsenal more of an unpredictable team. And, you know, that's why they recruited Timber, who could play in a number of positions, Havertz, who could play in a number of positions, and even Declan Rice, who can give you different options in areas in that midfield. And Mikel looked at that, I think, last season, and would have been, he went, you know, really hurt him the end of last season, how it panned out. And I think he went away in the summer and thought, what can we do? How do we get to the next level to beat Manchester City? Because everyone's talking about how good Arsenal were last season and wanting to go back to that. But ultimately, that wasn't enough to beat Manchester City last season, despite Arsenal playing so well in that system. And he has been spending the whole summer trying to work out what he needs to do to be able to get past Guardiola and Manchester City. And that's a big part of the signings he played. And I think a big part of what we're seeing so far is him trying to put that plan into action, but and having different ways of playing. And we're seeing that at the moment.
Last kind of couple of minutes or last minute or so, but I mean, Charles, is there I think someone asked, is there a Thomas Partey type release clause story on drafted for Friday that you just slot in the name? Anyone you're hearing, any incomings, or do you think it's a little bit of a that's it for us, we're done?
I would hate to say for definite that's it, we're done, but I think if something presented itself that they thought, oh, this is a brilliant opportunity to do something, potentially even a loan or something to cover maybe for the Timber injury or something else, I don't think the door is absolutely shut, but the focus is very much on outgoings between now and Friday. And if something popped up that they could do and they might do it. But yeah, I'm certainly not sure we're going to have another Thomas Partey type situation on Friday.
Fair enough. And Adrian, obviously, still doing stuff with the club on the Breakdown show, on the Matchday show and stuff like that. Just tell us a little bit about it. I know the Breakdown has now ceased, has it? The actual weekly show, but obviously the Matchday stuff is just getting better and better, isn't it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the show. Breakdown Live. So yeah, Nicole Holliday's been presenting it with me so far this season. Nick Bright will be back soon. Cool. So yeah, whoever I'm with, it's great. We normally get some celebrity Arsenal fans in the box by the pitch, and got always you've been in there. We've got a nice bunch of fans in there. It's a good vibe, and it's a mixture of fun, but also a little bit of analysis building up to the game, and obviously halftime, full time too. Bit of good news, I'm pretty sure that they're going to broadcast the show around the bowl on match days in the concourses. I'm hoping with the sound on, but it's going to appear on the TVs. So hopefully with a bit of luck at halftime. You can go out and get your pie and a pint and watch me potentially trying to analyse and break down what happened in that first half. So I just think I think there's a lot of goodwill that might happen, which I think is quite exciting.
I think particularly before the games, I think there's been a massive
before the game as well. Yeah,
purposely Arsenal fans are getting into the ground earlier. There's often buy one get one free offers or offers, and with digital tickets, I think people are quite nervous about sort of just getting in queues and missing stuff. So I think it would work really well if it was on actually before.
Yeah, exactly. I know a lot of fans want it to sing song and chat amongst themselves, but hopefully there'll be an option there just to check it out. Yeah, there's enough TVs, isn't there, in there? Exactly. So yeah, no, that's all good. Been doing a bit of work for the program, and potentially I might be doing something for the website moving forwards as well. Maybe looking back at games. So yeah, still keeping me busy.
Well, you'll still be our resident sort of pundit here, Adrian. We'll have you back every
thank you
8 weeks, I'm sure. And Charles, why should people buy your book? I mean, apart from the obvious that you've written
I got it now. I got
it now. There it is. It's a beauty.
My dad went and got it off his bedside table upstairs. He's been reading it. So it's been sending him to sleep. So I'm not sure that's a good thing.
On a serious level, you must be really excited for the next few days.
Yeah, I am really excited. It's a sort of mixture of excitement, nervousness of obviously at the moment the only people who've really been reading it are my family, and they're obviously going to say it's good. And now suddenly it's going to be opened up to the whole world. So, but hopefully they enjoy it, and I'm really looking forward to Thursday. Please do come down on Thursday. Just spare me that embarrassment of being basically surrounded by a big pile of books, no one there. I keep having visions. You know, that I've said this before. You know those sort of sad stories that pop up on social media of a 6-year-old kid who's got a birthday party that no one turns up to, and the mum takes a photo of him sitting on his own in a party hat with no one around him, and it goes viral on social media, and celebrities all pile on saying, "Oh, cheer up, Jack, we're all with you," and all that. And I've just got visions of me sitting there at my empty table with these books.
You'll be all right. No, you'll be all right, Charles. I'm sure the book will fly as well.
At the very least, it might push Arsenal to sell it for you. They're
definitely not going to do that.
In all seriousness, if anyone is around Toddington from 4 o'clock, I think Charles will be there pretty much all evening. There's a Q&A at 7-ish.
Champions League draw.
Champions League, watch it. 6-ish. That usually takes about 4 hours, doesn't it? Usually to conclude. But yeah, you can bring your laptops with you if you're anything like me and going to be booking flights straight away. And also the AS team will be buying, I think, 5 signed books, Charles. One will be going to our raffle winner, and we're going to give 4 away to someone who has attended this evening. So there's been a couple of hundred that have attended today. We're going to give 4 lucky people. They don't know it. They're being told now. As long as they've lasted to the end, they're going to be in the draw for a book. So we'll
Right, I haven't had a message yet, Akil, so no, I missed out on this one.
We'll sort that out on Thursday. But right, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, Charles. Best of luck for Thursday, and best of luck for the whole sort of career change. Not career change, but different direction on where you're going. Adrian, good luck with all the Arsenal stuff this season, and obviously people can hear you on TalkSport a lot and TalkSport 2 doing other games. And we're going to end with a couple of last bits, so you guys feel free to leave or to stay, but we're just going to share a couple of clips from the AST20, which includes Vinay Venkatesham just talking to Arsenal and Arsenal fans and trust members for 2 minutes. I thought it was important everyone sees. And we'll end on Henry Winter just talking about how important he thinks supporter clubs are. So for members, I'm going to close the show as soon as the last video finishes. So good night, take care, thank you for coming. The raffle link will be shared with you. The recording will be shared with you as well, in case you had to sort of drop off or didn't quite catch all of it. Those of you who are watching on the recording, thank you for watching. You can join the raffle even if you are watching on the recording. I think the draw is until next Tuesday. So obviously, I mean, it won't let you purchase tickets if you're after the draw. So, but obviously you have got till next Tuesday or so to watch. So wish you well and enjoy the last couple of clips, and up the Arsenal.
You almost got the pronunciation of my surname right. It was really close, really close, really close. No, I'll give you some advice. Venkatesham. Close. Listen, I'm not going to do any impressions, I'm afraid, but I just thought I would just say a few words. Firstly, I just wanted to welcome you all here today. It's great to see you all here, just a couple of days after winning this fantastic Community Shield in a really important and big performance against Manchester City, which I think will give us a lot of confidence for the season ahead. And also just a few days before we start the Premier League campaign back here at Emirates Stadium next Saturday against Nottingham Forest. We've had a busy summer. Edu, Mikel and their teams have been really busy strengthening the squad. And we were really pleased to get those 3 key signings of Urian, Kai and Declan done before our pre-season tour. And they had a great time. And it was really important to get those signings done early. We wanted to give the boys plenty of time to adapt to Arsenal, plenty of time to adapt to Mikel's style of play. So to have them on the plane with us on the way to the US was really important. And they integrated with the squad brilliantly, and we had a really successful tour out there in the US. And we're really looking forward to the season ahead. We know that expectations are higher than they've been in recent seasons for our season ahead. But we like that and we want that. We're Arsenal Football Club and we should be used to high expectations. And we're absolutely ready for the fight this season. It's going to be a tough campaign, but we're ready and we can't wait to get going on Saturday. But the real message I wanted to give you all today was a message of thanks. Thanks for your incredible support, in particular over the last season. Whether it's been our men's team or our women's team, whether it's been at Emirates Stadium, Boreham Woods, away games in the UK or away games in Europe. Whether it's been early kickoff, late kickoffs, pouring down with rain or sunny, whether we've been winning, drawing or losing, whatever the circumstances, we could hear our support loud and proud. It makes such a difference to the boys on the pitch. And I just wanted you to all know, I know it's obvious, but it's hugely appreciated by everyone at the club, by our owners, by our board, by our players, and by our staff. So I just want to say a huge, huge thank you. It was your support last season that helped us make that big step of progress, and we know we'll have your support just as loud, if not louder, this season. We really can't wait to get going, and here's to a great season. Thanks all, and have a good night.
Henry, this is a surprise. I to be honest, I didn't know you were coming.
No, I didn't know I was coming up.
But I mean, Henry, what is it that attracts you to coming to events like this, put on by the AST?
Well, I mean, everyone knows Ackle, the work that he does, and when you get a message from Ackle, you don't turn it down, because and also. Well, first, thanks for inviting me up on stage, but also thank you for keeping me in a job, because 2 years ago, with the Everton game outside, when you protested, and there were protests across the country against the European Super League, if you hadn't have done that, the world would have been a different place. English football possibly wouldn't have survived. Do you know, it seems like yesterday, because I think it was during COVID, and I was fortunate to be inside the ground covering the game. There's terrible games behind closed doors, and I went up onto the roof and looked down, and it made me very proud. Obviously, I was angry what was going on with the owners and the Americans and, well, you know, assorted owners, the greedy six, whatever you want to call them. But the fact that the fans were responding across the country, it happened with the Leeds and Liverpool fans on the Monday night, Chelsea fans, all the fans. You rescued English football. You brought in a regulator on the back of that. The pyramid. I was at Luton yesterday. I spent a day at Luton. Luton would probably have gone out of existence if you hadn't have made that stand. And for me, the pyramid matters. It matters because I cover England, and what was it, 23 of the 26 who went to Qatar. It was an experience. They had part of their development in the EFL. So 2 of them, Nick Pope and others, in non-league. And the pyramid matters, just as the elite matters. So thank you for what you did 2 years ago.
So true. And I mean, look, as a football writer, you go to so many grounds, you see so many teams, you see so many players. How do you begin to, it's really difficult sometimes when I tell my friends about the difference in the Emirates now. There's this air that as soon as you walk in, there's this vibe of, I don't know, that we're going to win, that we've got the fan base. How do you begin to put that down into writing and let the rest of the UK know and the rest of the world?
I think this seems a club united at the moment. I think there was obviously tensions in the latter stages of Arsenal's career, issues with the ownership, which obviously manifested itself 2 years ago. But I mean, I was at the Community Shield, as you were, at the weekend. I understand there were issues with Manchester City fans, and they were raising money for food banks, and they were protesting about the timing, and I have huge sympathy, and I did help them with some of the campaigning on that. But the noise from the Arsenal end, and it wasn't simply that end, it was all around. I thought Arsenal are a powerhouse again. The Sport Vinai was talking about it very eloquently earlier. This is a club united. This is a club going places. This is a club with a fantastic manager, Mikel Arteta, who I've always believed in, because I spoke to people at City, and the players there that he worked with, you knew he was going to do something special here. There's something about him. As a journalist, you wouldn't want to cross him, but also you just talk to the players. He makes them better players. He's united the club, and I think you are definitely going places. You are also up against Manchester City, fabulous team, and you're also up against Manchester City's lawyers.
100%. And obviously, you've covered England for a long time, and I always tell people that we do have England's best player in Bukayo Saka. I hear people talk about Kane, but I firmly believe that the first player that an opposing team will look at when they look at England is Saka. I mean, just how special is he to you?
Just little things about Bukayo Saka. When he turns up with England, he does an interview. He's got a water bottle on the table. He takes it away. He puts his seat under the table. He shakes your hand. There's eye contact. You know, he would be the perfect son. My son's here, so he's got some competition. But Bukayo Saka. So I've got the perfect son, but Bukayo Saka he'd be the sort of perfect second son. Honestly, he's just a lovely kid. And he's a fabulous footballer. And Brentford hosted a do last night, and I was talking to the sort of staff members there, management, and I was saying, what a wonderful moment that was when the Brentford fans supported Bukayo Saka. Probably many of you were on there. I mean, it was a terrible game for Arsenal. But the fact that fans who are not supporters of Arsenal supported Bukayo Saka, that was because they were taking a stand against racism. But also, I think they saw the substance of Bukayo Saka, who had to walk from the halfway line to take that penalty in a crunch moment at age, 20, 21, knowing that he would get the racist abuse if he missed. So that pressure, there's enough pressure on the white English players we've seen down the years going, but the bravery, the moral bravery of a player like Bukayo Saka, I think the Brentford fans were saluting that as you do every week, because he's a special person and a special player.
Looking ahead to this season, last season was a special season, but coming into it this year as a football writer, is there an air of, okay, we could have a 4-horse race back? Man United are looking strong in pre-season. Chelsea are buying players. I mean, how do you find it?
Well, the first thing is that my deadlines have been absolutely destroyed by all this added time. So if there's no match report in your first edition, blame Howard Webb. No, I just think it's incredibly exciting. I've been doing this 37, 38 years now, and the football that we're seeing, everyone's having a go. You look at Luton. I was speaking to their captain, Tom Lockie, and their coach, Rob Edwards, yesterday. They're going to have a go. They've spent probably, 15, 16 million, but they will come here and they'll have a go. And by the way, when you go to Luton, go early, because that is quite a ground to get into, and you squeeze into the away end, and you go past that lovely lady on the left who's always hanging out her washing, and you have to have a word with her. and that is brilliant, and that's what the game should be about, and that's one of the things that you fought for 2 years ago, so that you could have a Luton. So I think it's going to be, look, City are so good. I mean, Gvardiol, the player they've got coming into defence. But yesterday I had to pick my man of the match. It could easily have been Timber. I thought Timber was outstanding. That confidence to get forward, he's playing out of position, as Bakary was mentioning earlier. Declan Rice, everyone was raving about Declan Rice. I know Declan, I've been covering him for years. That for Declan was about a 6 out of 10 performance. He will get better and better, and he's got the personality, he's got the character, he's got the ability. Kai Havertz, I mean, I still think you need a striker. Yeah. And the Kai Havertz thing is interesting, but I'm a big Emil Smith-Rowe fan, and I would love to see it. I love seeing Arsenal players coming through, just like, obviously, from an England perspective. But Havertz has got a point to prove, and always buy players with a point to prove.
Love it. Henry, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
For being here. Thank you so much.